Today's topic is going to be about judgment, okay? And when I say judgment, it is judgment of all forms. Judging yourself, judging others, forming really quick opinions on other people's or your own actions, decisions, choices, all of that. It's pretty much everywhere you look. You can't really get away from it. There's no escaping being judged or judging. There's really no way around it. And I think judgment in particular gets a very bad rap because we don't know how to use it properly. We don't know how to use it as a power, as a superpower, or to our advantage. And I'm really passionate about talking about judgment because I think it's not good and it's not bad. It's just a thing that, quite honestly, like we do naturally, right? It comes natural to judge. It really does, because we're animals, right? We've evolved from animals. And when we were, back then, years and years and years and years and years ago, we had to judge in order to survive, right? We had to judge, is this the right tribe to join? Is this the right mate to choose to give us strong kids? Is this a safe tree to sleep in to hide from predators, right? We were always judging things to protect ourselves, right? And I think now that our basic needs for survival are pretty much always met, right? We know where our next meal is. We've got heat. We're not hiding from saber-toothed tigers. Now that our basic needs for survival are met, we now have this trait of judgment that is not being used for what it was created for. And now it's just put in place to kind of just do something we're bored with, right? Or just judge something to pass the time with. And it's just simply because it's not being used the way that it was meant to anymore. And so, like I said, it's not good, it's not bad. However, it's there. So, the saying, do not judge a book by its cover? Every single person has heard that, right? I say, yeah, you can. You can totally judge a book by its cover. And everybody does. And if you don't think you do, you're not analyzing your thoughts enough. Everybody does, right? Whether it's intentional or unintentional, whether it's a positive judgment or a negative judgment, we are all super quick to judge because it is an innate trait that was been built in us and we've been practicing for generations and generations. So you can judge a book by its cover, and it's okay that you do that. And it's okay if someone does that to you. Okay. What's not okay is the nature of the judgment, right? Is it negative? Is it condescending? Is it hypocritical? Or what are you going to do with that judgment, right? Is that a biased judgment that you're going to make a bad decision based off of? So it's not the judgment itself, it's what we do with it. And if you think about why you want to be healthy, why you want to lose weight, why you want to get stronger, why you want to feel more sexy or be more comfortable in your body, it's because there's something better out there for you. And you're judging your current self for not reaching your potential. Right? The only way you knew you wanted to be better is if you judged yourself, right? You said, nope, this isn't good enough. I can do better. And so in that case, the judgment was a positive thing, right? But then, this positive judgment you made, or the judgment that created a positive action was made. And then guess what happens? There's a bunch of negative judgments made about you along the way, whether that's by yourself or by everybody in your life who doesn't like to see you change because they are comfortable with the old you. They feel safe with the old you. The old you is familiar and easy to get along with, right? So all these judgments are happening simultaneously, all at the same time, out loud in your mind, in other people's minds. It's always happening. And so play the game. Play the game. Do not fight it. Do not try to cheat the game, fix the game, create your own game. Play the game. It's biology. You can't fight biology. You lose that battle every time. And so you have to realize that what you're doing is just it's a natural thing, right? And if you want to get to where you want to be in life, you have to act the role. You have to play the part, right? And in an ideal world, in a perfect world, nobody judges anybody and we all accept each other and we all love each other. And that's a great mission. Like, go ahead, but focus on yourself first. Can we just calm down and what have you been doing? What's happening in your household? Let's not talk about the world right now. Let's focus on you. Because if you can't get a hold of you, if you can't turn this judgment into superpower. And if you're going to be crippled by other people's judgments and opinions, or if you're going to hold yourself back with your own judgments of how you're performing, well then, don't even pay attention to what anybody else is doing. Focus on you first. So yes, you can judge a book by its cover, because I guarantee that you're being judged by your cover. And is what it is. We don't need to get upset or angry about it. Is it unfair? Sure. But now what? Right? Now what are you going to do? Now we play the game. We play the role. We act the part. Right? So think about, what did you do today? What did you get up to today? Where did you go? Who did you see? Did you interact with any strangers today? Right? A teller at a bank, a cashier at the grocery store. Did you say hi to the front lady at the desk? Did you interact with a stranger? Did you open the door for the mailman? Whatever. What would they say about you today? What would they say? Would they say, oh, she was nice? Would they say, oh, I don't remember her? Who? Or she's really negative, or she had a frown on her face. She wasn't very approachable. Like, what would a stranger you interacted with today or yesterday, how do you think they would describe you when you barely exchanged any words? They're judging you based off of your first impression. They're judging a book by the cover that you presented. Right? And whether that's fair or not, it just is a fact. And so how do we use this to our advantage, ladies? How can we use this? Well, you always have to show up and present the best version of you. You don't know who's watching. You don't know what you're thinking. You don't know what patterns and connections you're forming in your brain at these different points in your day. You have to show up and play the role of your best self at all times. You have to talk the talk. You have to walk the walk. You have to look the part. Why? Because it makes you feel a certain type of way. So if you go out into the world and you are playing the role, even if you don't feel the role sometimes, if you're playing this role of this confident, sexy, outgoing, got it together, I got my shit figured out, even if you're falling apart sometimes, if you step out into the world like that, the world will treat you differently. That is a fact. If you step out in baggy clothes with messy hair, you are being judged and people will treat you different. Now, whether or not you care if they treat you different, that's irrelevant, right? I'm not saying we have to care what people think, although we always do to some degree. But what I'm saying is people are judging you and they will treat you the way that you present yourself. And unfortunately, the way that other people treat you will start to knock away at your subconscious, and you treat yourself that way. So showing up as the best version of you, people are still going to pass bad judgments. You just can't please everybody. God knows you tried. There's always going to be someone that you piss off for no reason at all. But if you show up as your best self, you know that nobody has anything worth of value to judge you on. Nobody has any leg to stand on. No one has a valid opinion, valid advice if you show up as the best you, or the you want to become. Because even though you're going to be bombarded, people talk behind your back, people talk to your face, people talk to your friends who tell you and reiterate it to you. But the difference is, if you show up as your best self every time, you will not believe them, or you will not take the criticism to heart. And that is the superpower of judgment. And also, this works within yourself. If you show up as your best self, you believe you've tried your best. So even though we're going to have negative thoughts and self-doubt, and we're going to self-deprecate ourselves sometimes, if we've shown up as our best self, there's literally nothing else we can do. So those thoughts won't be as loud, they won't be as frequent, and they won't be as debilitating. And so use judgment to trick yourself into to trick yourself into not believing the bad judgments, and to reinforce the good judgments. That is what you are missing here. So if you are at a point in your life where you find you're particularly judgy, right? So you've been really quick to judge, really quick to form opinions, really quick to offer unsolicited advice on things that maybe you shouldn't. If you're in this really judging zone, notice it. Accept it. Turn it around. and ask yourself, would I want somebody doing this to me? And then if you're on the other end of that, where somebody's really doing it to you, or you feel some type of burden from yourself, whether there's someone in your life or multiple people in your life that are just bringing you down, demotivating you, making it hard to take another step, or even as far as making you, double think your decision. There will be people that try to stop you from making these decisions, these good decisions for your health. Live a little, just one bite. It won't hurt. You don't need to lose weight. You look great. What are you talking about? Those are real. And what you have to realize is that, other people's judgment of you is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them. It's a reflection of them. And the judgment you place on yourself are normally the judgments you have of your insecurities. But your insecurities aren't you. Say that out loud. Your insecurities aren't you. And they're probably not even real. They're probably not even real. Because somebody who really knows you, how would they describe you? How would you describe you? I bet it would be quite different in good and bad ways. And so there's just no way. There will always be so many different thoughts and opinions forming, left, right, and center. It is not a bad thing. And you don't have to feel overwhelmed when it's coming at you on all fronts. You don't. You just have to breathe and show up as your best self, because there's literally nothing else you can do besides tell them to shut the bleep up, right? Which, go ahead and do it if you got the balls. Go for it. But if you don't want to do that, if you're not confrontational, then there's no reason to freak out about it. There's no reason to harp on it, to worry about it. If you keep showing up as your best self, especially if it is coming from your own mind, because who's been there before? We get in dark moments. We do. I do. That's just the ebb and flow of life, right? And in those dark moments, I tell myself, feel this, feel it. Because feeling this intensity allows me to feel so much intense positivity. I can't appreciate the positive without the negative. I wouldn't notice the positive without the negative. You won't notice the positive without the negative. How crazy is that? You won't know how good your life is until you have some pain and sadness and sorrow and grief. It's a contrast. You don't know that good is good without bad. Good would be normal, and normal would be boring, and boring would be baseline. Boring would be not exciting. But good is only good because you know what bad feels like. And so don't take the bad for granted. Use it. And a lot of the times, ladies, we project. People project. You've heard that before. Funny story. I have somebody right now in my life, no word of a lie, every time I see them, every single time, without a doubt, within the first 1 minute of seeing them, they say, oh, you should get a tan. You're really pale. Get a tan. Really weird thing to say. Very weird. But, it could make me go, oh, do I look that pasty? Am I that white? Oh my God, look at my veins. You can see all my veins. I could go down that rabbit hole. I could. But I stop and I realize, oh, what people say out loud is normally what they're hyper-focusing on. And the reason they're hyper-focusing on it in you is because they're really hyper-focusing on it in themselves. So if I've got pasty skin and that's the first thing he sees, that's exactly what he's seeing in himself. That's why he's so sensitive to seeing it in me. It doesn't make him feel good. And I used to do the same thing with stomachs. When I was really, really young, I really didn't like my stomach, and I would look at, pop stars and models, and I'd be like, oh my God, she's beautiful. And what I thought was beautiful was just a nice flat tummy, right? And, it's funny. And the only reason I did that was because that was my area of insecurity, was tummies. So every time I looked at a body as a young girl, my eyes would go to a stomach. And that would determine whether or not I viewed someone as attractive. because I hyper-focused on that insecurity in me. And that's what other people do. You know, do they call you a bad mom? Do they call you messy? Do they call you moody? Do they call you bitchy? What have you been called that they don't like? It's because they see it in themselves and they don't want to fix it in themselves. So they want you to go fix it. And newsflash, if you show up as your best self, you already know you're working on you. So it doesn't matter what they think you need to fix. You got it locked down. You have locked it down. Nobody can make you waver from your path because you know what it is. Even the little voices chipping away at, is this right? Maybe I should be doing that instead. They'll be there, but show up tomorrow and the next day, be the best you. Play a role. Act sometimes. Act in your life. You're the main character. Put on a damn show for yourself. It's a long life if you let it be. It's a fast life if you let everybody else's opinion of you dictate how you feel or how you act. Most importantly, how you feel. Because how you feel is 24/7. It's in your mind all the time. All the time. And you don't want to be that person. Right? You want people to describe you with the best words possible. And there'll always be people who will describe you with your flaws right off the bat. They go straight to the flaws and then maybe a couple positives. We can't help that. But you are so confident in yourself and you are so sure of yourself. You are a fit queen. It doesn't matter when someone else points out your flaws. You already knew them. Haha, nice try. Already knew that. You're not surprising me with anything. Been working on that one for 10 years. What have you been doing? Right? What does it matter, ladies? Screw everybody else's thoughts, even the people close to you. Don't underestimate this. There's little tiny judgments. I would say the little passive-aggressive comments are worse than the big, blunt, offensive judgments. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're looking kind of sick. You're looking kind of skinny sick. That eats away at you. You're like, oh, am I? Right? Oh, no, I liked you with a bigger bum. Oh, did he? Right? You're no fun anymore. You don't drink. Oh, maybe I should have a glass. They eat away. They're not rude. They're not inappropriate. But the new you doesn't tolerate that. The new you stands her ground. It's got to be like water off a duck's back. And that's even what you can say to yourself. When you find yourself getting defensive, or when you find yourself wanting to talk back even and defend yourself, right? You ever heard somebody say something and defend yourself? I would say 9 times out of 10, when you start defending yourself, you've already lost. Because you feel like you have to prove a point. But if you believed the point, you wouldn't have to prove it. You really wouldn't. You'd believe it. You'd be like, I don't care if they do or not, because I do. And they're going to eat their own words one day. Because I walk the walk. They just talk the talk. Guess where I'm going to be 1 year from now? And guess where they're going to be 1 year from now? Water's off a duck's back, ladies. That can be your mantra. As you pass judgment on yourself or others, as others pass judgment on you, it's a part of the game of weight loss. It's a part of the game of life. But we don't have to be upset every time we hear somebody's opinion or comment. It's just that. It's an opinion or a comment, right? And nobody can pass judgment if they don't know the reasons why you're doing what you're doing, right? How can you judge if you don't know any reasons? Like, what are your reasons? There's this beautiful quote, and I can't even explain it properly, but I hope it hits you like it hit me. It was, to know your enemy is to love them. To know your enemy is to love them. If you really knew somebody, really knew even the worst people in history, the worst, your arch nemesis, Deborah across the street who lets her dog poop on your lawn, whatever. If you really knew somebody, you couldn't help but fall in love with them, because everybody's gone through their own life, their own experiences. We all suffer from the same things, just in different ways. To know somebody is to love them. We have the potential to really love everybody. And that's kind of the dream, right? True unconditional love. Like, what does that mean? How do we do that no matter what? But it starts with yourself. And I would dare to say that judgment is the number one thing stopping you or slowing down that process, at least. And it's crazy. If somebody doesn't know the reasons, their judgment shouldn't matter. Do you hear that? If somebody doesn't know why you're doing what you're doing, why you're acting the way you're acting, why you're saying no, whatever, if they don't know the reasons, their judgment does not matter. Because you know why? If they really cared about you, they would have asked you your reasons before sharing their judgment. If they really cared, they would have asked you your reasons before sharing their opinions, advice, or judgment. If they really cared about what you had to say or helping you. And so if somebody's judging you, remember this, whether you're going through this right now or it's going to happen in the future. When someone passes a judgment or a big one or a passive aggressive comment or is slowly, leaving your life, if they're not asking why this is happening, then they don't really care. And if they don't care, there's no way you're going to convince them anyway. So why bother? Why bother? So, moral of the story, ladies. Judgment is a survival instinct. We need it. It's how we've made it to this point in our life. It's how we base every decision, good, bad, risk, no risk, healthy, unhealthy, is judgment. So it's an instinct. So we need to reharness that instinct in a positive way. And it starts with how we judge ourselves. And then how we judge ourselves is always projected on how we judge others. There's that projection again. And so what you have to do is show up as your best self, to prove the judgments wrong, to be able to not listen to the judgments, and to disprove the judgments over and over and over again. And that is how we harness the power of being judgmental and turn it into a power of showing up for yourself. And a power like actually standing up for yourself. And standing up for yourself is not necessarily speaking up, although a lot of women are not good at that. So that is a version of it. We get walked over, right? Or we avoid conflict, so we hold our tongue. So that is an area where you can show up. But most importantly, act. Act differently. Walk the walk. Because if you just walk the walk, eventually you will be the person. It won't be playing a role anymore. You won't be playing a role. You'll just wake up one day and you're like, oh, hold on. When did that happen? When did I make the switch? When did I stop acting and start living? And that's what we're trying to achieve. So wipe the slate in your mind where judgment and having these judgments and passing judgment is a bad thing. It is just a thing that you have full control over, and it tells you a lot. It'll tell you a lot about how you feel about yourself, which will tell you where you need to focus your efforts of change. And it will tell you a lot about how other people feel about themselves, which is a great, powerful tool. Use that however you want. Use that tool however you want. You now have a window. You have a window to somebody else's soul by how they judge. Really. It's crazy powerful. Manipulation even. It can be a bad positive, or a bad power. But I want you to go forth, and I want you to use your power of judgment as a good thing, right? Because most likely right now, it is a negative power. Meaning it is just programmed to be either find a problem for every solution, or pinpoint flaws very quickly, or doubt things very quickly, whatever it is, how we're reacting to things and judging situations. Right now it's programmed that way, right? So if that's what it is, pay attention to where it goes, and that's where your efforts need to be. Because your body follows your mind and your mind follows your body. Have you been giving one attention and not the other one? Or are you not realizing how connected they really are? So I hope you learned from that, ladies. I hope you learned that judgment is a good thing, and start passing some awesome judgments and show up for yourself. Play the role, show up, and things will slowly start to change, and people will stop sharing their judgments with you because you told them to shut the F up or you acted that way, and you'll show up for yourself more, and you'll make better decisions because of it, because you're worth it. When we make bad decisions, when we make not healthy decisions, because we don't think we are worth it, we think we are not actually going to reach our goals. So why bother? But you're worth it. So play the part, act the role, and you will believe it one day. But don't give up just yet. You got to put in the work.